Okay, so we're continuing 4.5. We're given two functions, f of x and g of x here. And I want to find f plus g of x and then f divided by g of x and then the domain that goes along with them. Okay, so we talked about this in an earlier video, but to find the sum of function, we add the individual functions together. So f plus g of x is equal to f of x plus g of x squared minus 1. So when I combine like terms, I've got x squared, I have a minus x, minus 12 minus 1 is minus 13, and that's it. The question now is, what's the domain? When I'm talking about domain here, there's three things I've got to watch out for in college algebra. Now, we've only talked about two so far. We've got to avoid square roots of negatives, okay? We also have to avoid dividing a number by 0. So that's bad, and this is bad too. There's a third thing we'll talk about in chapter 7. But for right now, this is what we've got to watch out for a domain. Well, do you see any square roots? No, so we don't have to worry about number 1. Do you see anywhere I'm dividing? No, there's no division. So guess what? My domain for f, well, that's just negative infinity to infinity. That's what Hawks is going to want. You can write that on your test, or I'll take R if you really want to do set notation, okay? But if it tells you to do interval notation, this is what they're looking for right here, okay? Now, the last one is f divided by g. F of x divided by g of x, as long as what? G of x is not 0, because dividing by 0, that's one of our no-nos, okay? So what is this? X minus 12 divided by x squared minus 1, okay? Now, x squared minus 1, okay? If I divide by a negative, that's bad. Gotta watch, I'm sorry, if I divide by 0, that's bad. If I take the square root of a negative, that's also bad. I don't see any square roots in here, so I'm okay. So how do I figure out what numbers make this 0? Well, guess what? I set the denominator equal to 0 and solve for x. Add 1 to both sides, x squared equals 1. Square root, I get x is equal to plus or minus 1 here. So my bad values of x I can't have, are 1 and negative 1. So if you're looking at a number line, I need to mark negative 1 and 1 as values I got to skip over. So everything works except those two values. So how do I write this in interval notation? I read from left to right. What's the most left? It's negative infinity. And I go up to negative 1, I skip it, union, and I go from negative 1 over to 1, and I skip 1, and I go from 1 to infinity. That's my domain, okay? As long as I don't use 1 or negative 1 here, then I'm not going to divide by 0. So this is my function right here. All right.